Eltharion, can he be trusted? Today, I'm Bat Elf. We've left the Batcave, and we're squared up for a good old-fashioned Order showdown as Morslib rains down from the heavens. Eltharion the Grim and a Phoenix Guard Corps against Boris Todbringer, his trusty Griffin, and the mages of the Amber College. The Chicxulub Impactor has nothing on this Extinction level event, so let's get it poppin' like Orville Redenbacher, as Lil Wayne used to say. In the blue corner, march the forces of Middenland, with Imperial Knights, state troops, and their Elector Count riding high on the wings of magic for some Overwatch. Super wide build from the Empire here, not a single regiment of renown, but plenty of ranged firepower, rounded out by a detachment of 3 Outriders. Boris Todbringer has his gorgeous Middenland Runefang, gives him regen in melee and when he's outside it as well, so he's constantly getting that burst of HP, which can save his life many times over. There's an Amber Wizard with Flock of Doom and Transformation of Kadon, some handguns with a great line of sight at the crest of that hill, more heavy cav, and some detachments out on the flank that should provide some nice armor piercing from downtown. Outriders are an annoying unit to deal with, for sure. They can be a problem if they fire into the high value stuff, like the armored heavy cav of the Azure. For the High Elves, the Coneheads of Yvresse, it's a Phoenix Guard Corps, a unit I find to be incredibly useful against the Empire. A bit vulnerable to kiting, of course, but they buzzsaw through Imperial foot troops and wreck cav and single entities as well, so there's not a whole lot they can't kill in melee. Bit of skirmish power with 2 Eltharion Reavers, light cav, and 2 archers, but the key lies with Eltharion and his Dragon Prince companions. Not exactly considered a top tier pick for the Azure. He's a bit overpriced and has some bad abilities for sure, but it's not who he is underneath, but what he does that defines him. He has a fantastic stat line, Apotheosis heals for the cav, and Tempest to deal with Boris and his Griffin, which is an incredibly useful spell. When you think you'll be facing off against a flying monster, it's very much worth bringing. Basically, anytime Boris thinks about engaging, pop an Overcast Tempest on him, shoot him with some archers, and slowly chunk away that HP. The super nice thing is, with a spell setup like this, you don't blow through your magic quickly at all, so you can keep hitting that bird with tornadoes and really hamper its impact on the battlefield. Really hamper that mobility. So, Outriders already moving out to the flank. Gotta make sure they stay away from my Dragon Princes, my gorgeous Dragon Princes, which can be a very useful unit against the Empire. They have to be scared of Demigryph Knights with halberds, of course, and regular demis. And that's why you'll typically see people bring the Fireborn, because they trade much better into Demigryph Knights, but there are no demis here. As I've said many times before, both factions in this matchup can bring a wide variety of different builds. And so in this one, Empire didn't go particularly heavy on the Knight play and instead focused on a much wider build with Outriders on the flank. Line of sight isn't perfect on this map. Looks flat from up top, but there are quite a few little hills that provide some cover as you try and close the gap. But those same hills can also give you a great vantage point, as the handgunners can attest. And they should be able to fire right over the top of that spearman front line and start landing volleys in and amongst the Silent Guardians of the Shrine of Eltharion. Now, you'll sometimes see silver bullets against the High Elves simply for this reason. They're able to shoot into Dragon Princes and Phoenix Guard and completely bypass the physical resistance, but armor-piercing damage is armor-piercing damage. It's AP, and when it lands, it hurts, even if you have high physical resist. So, Phoenix Guard are certainly feeling that, but they're into melee, and this is where I really love these Silent Guardians, baby. I mean, they're just so good. They're so good at killing state troops, at killing cav, at tanking out, while also dealing a tremendous amount of damage. Most High Elf infantry would have been in big trouble after getting charged by swordsmen and then charged by Empire Knights directly after. Phoenix Guard are at 95% HP after both those things, and they're already about to rout the swordsmen, chopping through that front line faster than Greece's gold tooth at an all-you-can-eat buffet, which is the crux of the build, really. It's why Phoenix Guard corps can be strong here. You break through the center, push on to the artillery, and compromise the rear while ignoring cav charges because you've got AP halberds. They don't want any of that action. But for the Empire's part, they're designed to bend, not break. Their infantry isn't meant to carry them here. It's all about the support. So just because their infantry's retreating after the initial charge doesn't mean they're in a bad spot, as long as the shooty stuff is still online. Looks like Empire Knights and Boris Todbringer charging into the Phoenix Guard and Silver Helms. Blood Roar dropping leadership of everything nearby. I do not believe he has his white cloak of Ulrich. And for my part, Well, I know what I need to do. Get rid of the heavy knights and push on to the cannons. The archers have done a great job with their 180 range, shooting into the handguns and the cannon crews. Apotheosis going down on the Dragon Princes, who are down past half HP already. Nice overcast Flock of Doom on the Phoenix Guard as well. I do not believe they have magical resist, so they'll take the full brunt of that. And Eltharion dealing with a transformation of Khadon Manticore. Middenland has rolled back his right flank. Outriders retreating. Problem with them, of course, is they do not have Parthian shot. They do not have 360-degree fire arcs, so that they cannot kite and shoot at the same time, which means they need more support than your typical skirmish cav. And the Eltharion Reaver archers have done a decent job zoning them out so far, but the Dragon Princes already broke off from the main line. Eltharion and his Apotheosis heals were not enough to keep them in the fight for super long. The cannons and the handguns were too much to keep them online, and they will come back, but there are not a lot of models left, and they may not make a large impact on the battle at this point. Manticore just routed. Imperial Knights broken off from the initial engagement, charging in once again, but there are Phoenix Guard and Silver Helms right there. So I don't think it's going to go well for the Knights in blue, but Boris is still full HP, and we have not unleashed the Tempest yet. Eltharion has been dealing with the flanks while Boris was in the center, so he hasn't really been in range so far, but the next time Boris tries to land, that's when we'll focus on the tornadoes and start dealing some damage to him. For now, focusing on the other threats, the ones that don't have regen, like the Outriders at the crest of the hill. Focus fire from the archers and Eltharion Reavers should be enough to zone them completely out. A gorgeous downhill charge from the Silver Helms, finishing off those handguns for good. Cannons shattered, handguns shattered. A lot of the Empire range play is in tatters at this point. And Eltharion the Grim, High Elf Batman, swinging that spear, decapitating the spearmen on the front lines, and these state troops shouldn't be able to last for too much longer either. You got 75 melee attack and like 68 melee defense with Grim Discipline still popped, and the fact that it's almost always active on him, because the threshold is 25% HP instead of 50%, and he has heals. Well, that means his stat line is super good. Obviously, he has mass problems when he's just on horseback, and on his Griffin, he's a little bit too expensive on Stormwing, and his arrow passive that drops stuff from the skies is hot trash. It's actually miserable. But besides that, his toolkit is okay. He's just a little bit overpriced and outshone, certainly outshone, by the other amazing legendary lords on the High Elves roster, like Teclis and like Eltharion. Finally, Tempest going in. Balance bar still pretty close to even at the moment, but the Empire is breaking off, and now we can focus on Boris himself. Overcast, minus 72% speed. Boris won't be able to move. Another transformation of Khadon Manticore, inflating that balance bar a little bit more. Dragon Princes return, but a brave 15 or so are all that is left. Their job at this point, they can't go toe-to-toe with anything on the field. Might as well just chase off the routers and get some good cycle charging in. So really strong in the center at this point. A lot of wavering across the midline battle line, but Boris and that Griffin are still a huge problem. And Eltharion is a little bit isolated without much cav support, so Boris smells blood in the water. Fang Sword of Eltharion popped. Some heals popped as well to get him out of that sticky situation. Phoenix Guard will be able to protect him, get their lord inside the defensive box, and protect him well. But that will give more time for the rest of the Middenland army to return to the fold. Transformation of Khadon Manticore about halfway through its cooldown, through its timer. Might degen at some point here, but the Phoenix Guard will hold strong as it charges through, directly through that halberd line like it didn't even exist, and directly on top of Eltharion. But he has plenty of support here. Dragon Princes tear routing off for the second time this battle, and we may not see them again. Outriders firing into the Phoenix Guard from the flank, and Boris still pretty much zoned out. I mean, there's not a whole lot he can land on when the archers have used all their ammo for the most part. Eltharion Reaver archers can escape, and Phoenix Guard don't care if they're fighting against a legendary lord, and that's all they're fighting against. Boris' support has just been systematically sliced apart. Spearmen gone. They'll be run down by Eltharion Reaver archers. The rest of the army not looking too hot at the moment, and this will force Boris into a really tough situation. He has to outduel Eltharion the Grim. There's nothing for it. He has to go in and try to strike the head off the snake, but when Eltharion is supported by all these armor-piercing halberds, it's gonna be pretty difficult to do so. But he has the mass to push through Phoenix Guard. We've already seen that even though the halberds are amazing for killing cav, monster single entities, all that good stuff, they can still be pushed through relatively easily. So Apotheosis to heal them back up and keep it in a Death Star at this point. Keep it high and tight, force Boris into an awkward position, and meanwhile, cast some Tempest. That regen only goes so far, and even the archers will finally be able to land some shots when he's slowed down by 72%. Green meteors flashing in the background. Something really cool about the atmosphere on this map for sure. Remains of Morslib. It's the end times, I guess. The cataclysm approaches, and it might very well be the cataclysm that Boris has foreseen all these long years. Not death by Kazrak this time. Death by High Elf, Batman, and the Amber Wizard. You're in the wrong neighborhood, mother trucker. He's pushing through so hard. He doesn't have the mass of a moose, though. Those antlers aren't going to help him. And 1 or 2 more strikes should be enough to finish him off for good. Yeah. Is he dead? Yeah, he's gone. His head got chopped off. Well done, Eltharion the Grim. Well done, my friend. Boris is just running off to the edge of the map now, chasing off some routers. But this is a foregone conclusion at this point. It'll be a brave last stand of the electric count of Middenland and maybe 1 unit of Outriders. He'll have to commit. We'll fast forward here. 1 more Tempest. 1 charge coming in, and that will be the end of the battle pretty much as the veteran Outriders of Middenland meet their end. Get some sharp Phoenix Guard halberds, and Boris flies off in the other direction. And when Eltharion finally catches him, he only has 1 question. Where were the other drugs going? He only got 13 kills that game, but he did what I needed him to. It wasn't about the killing from the grim, disciplined Warden of Tor Yvresse. It's all about those spells. Apotheosis to keep the Dragon Princess in the fight at least a little bit longer, but Middenland did a great job of eliminating that threat quickly with handgun and cannon fire. But more importantly, Tempest really kept Boris in check. He got a few good cycle charges in the first half of the game, but once his support was gone, he really can't alpha strike my lord, because anytime he gets even close, he gets Tempest and Tornado slowing him down, archers shooting him. Even the regen from Midland Runefang won't keep you in the fight for too terribly long once all that DPS is going your way. And Tempest by itself does a pretty great amount of damage against single entity flyers, so it all racks up pretty quick. The archers were amazing. Both got close to 80 kills. Dragon Princess, as I said, died relatively quickly, but the Phoenix Guard, fantastic. 2 of them got well over 100 kills. Chevrons earned all across the board, slicing up infantry, slicing up cav. I love them. Their leadership is what makes them special. Alongside that bonus for large and armor piercing, they just fight for forever. So even if you do manage to get them low, they are still annoying and they are still grinding up all your state troops. Always interesting to see the High Elves and the Empire go at it. 2 very versatile factions. Hope you guys enjoyed it. See you next time. Indie Pride signing out for now.